Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Springtide Research Institute's YouTube channel. I'm excited to have two of our Springtide Ambassadors with us today, and I'll say a little bit more about what that program is. But why we're gathered here today is because we wanted to get a little head start on this project that we are undertaking these next couple of years. We think that there is more to the story of Gen Z and religion. Our data show that the popular narrative about Gen Z dismissing religion just doesn't add up. Thanks to a generous grant from the Lilly Endowment, we are going to discover the spaces across religious and spiritual traditions where youth and young adults are flourishing. And so we wanted to actually talk to some real life young people to see exactly what their lived experience is with religion and spirituality. We have a program at Springtide called the Springtide Ambassadors program. It is a 15-month commitment where people ages 13 to 25 get to interact with each other, learn more about religion and spirituality, culture, all of the things that young people are undertaking during this season of their lives. And we at Springtide get courtside seats to this and get to interact with these wonderful young people. So I have two with us here today, and I will ask each of them to give their name, age, location, and what they're doing in life. Claire, will you start?
Yeah, of course. So my name's Claire. I am 21 years old and I am from Minneapolis. I just graduated from the University of Minnesota, Twin Cities.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for being here. Lensa?
Of course.
Hi, I'm Lensa. I'm 16 years old. I'm still in high school, and I'm living in Greeley.
Awesome. And that's Colorado, right? Is that right? Okay, awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. So I have some specific data points from our work that I want to throw out here to y'all. And then I would love to hear your reflection on what I show. Does that work for y'all? You good? Okay. So let's start with one about Gen Z's unbundling and rebundling of faith. We've done a lot of work on how young people are taking their path through religious and spiritual journeys. What we found is that it's not linear. In fact, people, what we call unbundle faith from one single religion source or spiritual source, and they rebundle it in a way that helps them address the questions that they're asking, the problems that they're facing, the circumstances they live in, etc. One of these data points that we found is that 62% of young people agree with the statement, there are parts of many religion and spiritualities that I agree with. 48% of young people agree, I feel like I could fit in with many different religions or spiritualities. So we see that instead of that strict affiliation, young people see the value in many traditions. Claire, I am curious, how does this finding correlate with what you've experienced and seen with your own interactions with religion and or spirituality?
Yeah, for sure. So I grew up like Lutheran, Protestant Christian. I still identify with that tradition. And I kind of got more into my faith towards the end of high school, so like a few years ago. And around that same time, I discovered mindfulness meditation, which I use and practice as like a secular mental health tool, but definitely has a large like spiritual lineage that I've come to learn a lot about and like get a lot more experience with through just like learning about meditation and practicing it. And I remember when I first started meditating, I did start it like just purely for my mental health. But I kind of had some like a little bit of fear about it because I thought like, oh, is this wrong of me as a Christian? Because I know that some people, some really traditionalist Christians would say like, oh, you shouldn't like, would have oppositions to that sort of thing. Like even before thinking about this topic, I looked up and I found an article that I saw all these years ago, published in like a major Christian publication, explaining the dangers of mindfulness meditation and the dangers of yoga, and how if you're a Christian, you should not be doing these things. So when I first started engaging with that practice, those voices kind of came up in my head, and I continued with it nonetheless. And mindfulness meditation has become one of the most like transformative, beneficial things for my mental health in my entire life. And as a member of Generation Z, mental health is something I think about a lot, and I've really benefited just so hugely from that. And that's really made me fundamentally challenge those kind of like notions that drive that type of sentiment, to like even, launch that criticism, because I've come to feel that like it's very rooted in like having kind of suspicious attitudes towards other faiths, or viewing Christianity as something that should be like necessarily pinned up against other religions. And I've really come to embrace kind of a more inclusive, less like fear-based or competing-based understanding of my religion. So Faith Unbundled kind of started with mindfulness meditation, and it's become very much like a different theological understanding of my own religion as well. And another major part of my journey of like unbundling my faith has definitely been the interfaith relationships I've had as I've gotten older, and especially like coming from high school in a suburban area to college in a more metropolitan area, Minneapolis. I have like a lot of friends from other religions. I would say like most of my friends are probably Muslim, and I have friends probably like representing most of the major faith traditions, and just getting to like learn from their experiences and appreciate them, and see how my Christianity doesn't need to negate or be in contest with their religions, has really kind of broadened my faith and let me kind of embrace a more like a less fear-based version of Christianity.
Nice. Do you find that you just described your experience beautifully? Do you find that your friends also have similar journeys of figuring out it's not linear for them either? Have you seen that?
Oh, 100%. I can think of literally like so many of my friends, many of like my closer friends who are Christian have gone through very similar paths. Another thing that I feel comes up a lot in people's faith unbundling journey is like sexuality. And because most people, I mean, in my generation, very progressive, inclusive generation, you'll be like hard pressed to find somebody who doesn't support like LGBTQ identities and stuff. And so many people in like Christian spaces that I've been a part of have been wrestling with that themselves, or just kind of wrestling with what does their faith mean when they fully support these people's identities that maybe their traditional religious spaces haven't generally supported. And I've also seen, I see that all the time in all these different religious spaces. I also feel that a lot of times, like I'm somebody who, my faith is obviously really important to me. I'm really active in like campus ministries and stuff in my school. I feel like there's often kind of a disconnect between a lot of the young people in these religious spaces and the beliefs and experiences they have kind of surrounding this faith unbundled topic, and maybe the culture and beliefs of the people like leading the spaces.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Wow. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I want to draw your attention to another data point, if I may. We also find that adults, you were just talking about this. Adults are really critical in this journey. Having trusted adults, whether it's the religious or spiritual journey, the mental health journey, the educational journey, trusted adults really matter. You see these stats here on the screen, and I'll read them off really quick because this underscores the importance of adults who listen. So 84% of young people ages 13 to 25 say they will trust someone who remembers things they have shared. 82% say they will trust someone who takes the time to hear what they have to say. 78% of young people say they feel listened to when people show they understand what they've been through. And 80% say they feel listened to when people show they care about them. Linsa, I'm curious to know, with these stats and in your experience, how does this correlate with the things that you've seen and experienced in your life?
So a trusted adult in my life is basically my older siblings and my parents. My parents are always open to talking about pretty much anything and anything that concerns my health. They're not really, they don't really know anything about mental health as much, but they do reach out to me about physical health, emotional health, and they know that also that school is a big stressor for me, so they always make sure that I'm doing good in those areas. My older siblings, my older brother, he always gives me advice on how I can do better as well whenever I share something that I've done well or haven't. My older sister also helps me by encouraging me on what I can improve on and stuff like that. So I trust them because they don't like what I see with different people of my age. They would be too afraid to tell their parents or siblings, but I have that relationship with them, which is awesome. Yeah.
No, that's great. You know, you mentioned that school is a real stressor for you. What do you do to take care of your mental health? Do you reach out to the people that you just named, or are there other practices that you undertake to help keep yourself in the right headspace?
Yeah, so I would just talk to my siblings and my parents if anything, like for anything that I want to get off of my mind. But also something that helps is praying, because it keeps me calm and at peace, and just sitting down and reading and just focusing, like meditating, those help a lot.
Awesome. No, those are great. Those are great. One last question for you two. What advice would you give to adults who are caring for young people? What can adults do or say better, or how can they be better supports for you? Claire, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so for me, I would say a lot of, the best kind of like adult, like faith leader relationships I've had, or just mentors or professors in general, are ones who I really feel have come to like understand and know me and respect me through like conversations, and really like it really made me feel as though they come to understand my experience, and just taking the time to like get to know me as a person. So I would just encourage adults to really kind of learn about the experiences of young people. I really think a lot of Springtide's resources would honestly be an excellent place to start, because I think as especially nowadays with like, because a lot of times young people will always say like, oh, my parents, they don't understand me, blah, blah, blah. But with social media and stuff nowadays, I really do think the experiences of young people today are pretty different than those of their parents' generation, probably more so than it would be between other generations in the past. So just coming to really listen to the young people in your life. Yeah.
Awesome. Great advice. Linsa, what advice do you have for old people like me? How can we help care for you better?
I would say being more open-minded and trying to understand young people's experiences and what they go through, because not everything we go through is the same as what you go through or someone else.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. Claire, Linsa, thank you so much for chatting with me today. I appreciate your sharing with us. And thank you to our audience for sitting in with us today. We always appreciate you.